Who can doubt the accomplishments of Olli Zeidler?
Wow, that's a lot.
But for all this, there is no doubt that his technique leaves a few coaches scratching their head when their athletes want to emulate his form. Because we all know that the way he rows is
Wrong, wrong, wrong.
Or is it? Hey, this is Infinite Rowing and welcome to our series on why not to row like an Olympian. Olli Zeidler is a great example to start the series off with, because there are elements of his stroke that we want to make sure that no aspiring athlete wants to emulate. Then, because we are open-minded and love to play the devil's advocate where possible, we would like to put a case forward for elements of his stroke and ask why we would not want to do this. As you know, we would like to form a community of like-minded rowers and coaches, so let's engage with the tribe and see which elements we would like to consider and which we would rather avoid. Most notably, Olli rows short. But before we get into that, let's have a look at his body position. When you start rowing, and Olli started quite late, it is easy to find a position that works with your physiology and your flexibility at the time. If not addressed, you then develop a stroke that works within that body position, and as you can see from Mr. Zeidler, it can allow you to go fast, especially if you're a 2-meter tall powerhouse. People think it's his height that causes him to adopt this position, but he's not that tall compared to some of his counterparts at the pinnacle of the sculling world. Either way, for us mere mortals, there are a number of reasons why this is not ideal, primarily your health.
Oh, my aching back.
We would like to make sure that we are all competing at World Masters in the octogenarian event. Last year at Brandenburg, there was a Category M race. That's for crews with an average age older than 89. Rowing is a low-impact sport and if done with the correct form can be done well into your twilight years. That's what I'd like for myself as well as the tribe. It is clear that Olli sits with his weight on the glute side of his sit bones. We're preparing a full video on body position, but for now let's just say that in order to move your body as one lever, the pivot needs to be around the hip joint. In order to be able to do this, you need to have moved your pelvis into flexion and have rocked your weight onto the front of your seat so that you are either sitting on your sit bones or, if anything, are sitting on the hamstring side of them. A dead straight body is not necessary. Nothing in rowing should be that robotic. If you swing your body through the hip joint from this position, you will engage the much bigger posterior chain muscles of your glutes and hamstrings. If you don't, you will either be limiting the range of motion of these muscles or you will be relying on the much weaker erector muscles of the lower back, risking serious injury. A more upright body also allows for the lengthening of this lever. The effect of swinging your upper body against the pressure of your leg drive is the most powerful aspect of the stroke, and it is vital that you maximize this. Then there is the fact that you are able to fill your lungs more in an upright body than in a collapsed one. At Infinite Rowing, we believe that you should be taking full strokes. Or do we? But only within the natural limits of your physiology. We don't believe that anybody should be pushing themselves to reach forward or lean back further than this. In our body position video, we will show you how to find your body's natural position at full reach all the way through to an effective extraction.
That's something I gotta see.
But for now, let's look at the disadvantages of rowing short. Under normal circumstances, shortening up your stroke will have the effect of reducing the length of your arc. Some science has gone into figuring out how long that arc should be, especially how much of it should be before and how much of it should be after the work or the perpendicular. If you shorten your stroke by limiting the amount that you get through your slide, then you will be naturally shortening the front end of that arc. This means that your blades will be going into the water at a more obtuse angle to the boat. This will limit your time to connect and will mean that your placement needs to be quicker, almost punchy, and yet cleaner in order to avoid check. In order to have your blades in the water enough to have an effect, you will need to increase your stroke rate, which doesn't necessarily suit everybody's level of strength versus fitness. The first part of the stroke is made up of a leg squeeze, so when you shorten this, you will be bringing your body swing in much closer to the placement, which can result in shoulder catches. This usually leads to the blades going in too deep in the placement, increasing your potential for vertical slip and again, the potential for injury. It is also quite likely that if you shorten up the front end, you may look for additional length in the lean back in order to compensate. That's a subject for a video on its own, but suffice it to say, we're looking to achieve maximum force just before the perpendicular, so looking to compensate for it at the end of the stroke once the optimal effective angle has passed is not a good substitute for losing the front end. Now that we've shown you why this is a terrible idea and should be avoided
At all costs.
and given coaches all the ammunition they need to beat it out of their athletes, let's look at why it could actually be a good idea.
Say what?
As we mentioned, looking at Olli's stroke, it completes that extraction, and it is the front end that he seems to shorten to 3/4. So let's look at what we know about the first quarter of the drive. Your weight is almost all in the stern, with the boat trimming at its least efficient with the stern dragging. With your body at full compression and your knees fully bent, it means that not only is your center of gravity at its highest, but your weight is also spread out over the smallest area of the hull. Both of these factors mean that this is the hardest part of the stroke to maintain your balance. We know that our muscles are at their strongest as they near full extension and at their weakest at full compression. We also know that at this point the boat is moving at its slowest, requiring the most exertion. Lastly, as your legs move in towards your body, it compresses your ability to fill your lungs fully. So, there are also a good few reasons why this part of the stroke has its downfalls.
Get rid of it.
We do still want to ensure that we row with an effective and efficient arc length. But what if we were to reduce the span, change the settings on the blade to still achieve an appropriate overlap and gearing, allowing us to still achieve an optimal arc, but with a slightly shorter slide? That way, would we not have the best of both worlds?
Thinking.
We would eliminate all the negative aspects of the first quarter without affecting the amount of time that the blade spends in the water and the catch and finish angles of the arc either. Added to this, because we do not need to compress as much, we could effectively get our feet slightly higher on the foot stretcher, keeping our drive a little bit more horizontal. Would this not make us faster?
Yes, why not? Let's do it.
In terms of body position, we are very sure that emulating this Olympian is not a good idea. But in terms of a shorter stroke, I am asking the question again because we do not really know the answer. If there wasn't anybody out there who was doing this successfully, that would be one thing. But thanks to Mr. Olli Zeidler, that is no longer an easy question. I'm looking forward to hearing what the tribe says on this one.